So Ukrainians are already cheering the Crimean Bridge explosion, even without claiming a responsibility. One senior Ukrainian official posting this on Twitter: Marilyn Monroe's famous birthday serenade to JFK.
Happy birthday to you.
And this is why the explosion of the Kerch Bridge coming just hours after Vladimir Putin's 70th birthday. In Kyiv, Ukrainians took selfies in front of a painting of the bridge blast. For more, let's turn to CNN military analyst, retired Air Force Colonel Cedric Leighton. Colonel, so good to see you. So Fred Pleitgen used the word humiliating, that this would be humiliating to Putin. How do you see it?
Oh, definitely, Frederica. This is one of the biggest humiliations that Putin could experience, let alone, if something happened in Moscow. But in this situation with the Kerch Bridge being blown up, what you're seeing is a major engineering project of the Russian Federation being disrupted and at least part of it destroyed. So this is a big blow to the prestige of Russia and especially to Putin's personal prestige.
He personally was on that bridge celebrating that it was put there back in 2018. And so now, describe for us how vital this bridge is in moving supplies as part of the military strategy for Putin, and how this would be a big disruptor.
So this bridge not only has road links, but also, as Fred Pleitgen mentioned, a rail link. And the way this works is that the Russians can move a lot of their tanks, a lot of their armored personnel equipment, all the missiles that they have stationed in Crimea, a lot of them they can move over this bridge either by rail or by road. The fact that this is disrupted forces them to use seaborne resupply routes into Crimea, either from Russia directly through the Sea of Azov, or they can do it around Europe through the Mediterranean and then eventually into the Black Sea. So this really puts a real difficulty on the Russians in terms of their logistics effort, which already has had a lot of challenges. So once you disrupt a major rail and road line like this, you force them to go on alternative routes, and some of those routes are not as good, not as broad, not as modern as what the Kerch Bridge was.
And obviously this will further agitate Putin. So what do you expect his response might be?
So I expect him to actually go after more civilian targets in Ukraine, kind of what we saw in the last few days with the recent rocket attacks on places near Kyiv, and then, of course, more recently around Zaporizhia. That is the kind of thing that I expect him to do. He would try, if he could do it, to mount some more military operations, and potentially he will try to go after the people that he thinks are directly responsible for this. That might be a harder thing for him to do, but it's certainly on his target list. I'm certain of it.
And then we also understand that Russia's defense minister appointed a new commander for operations in Ukraine. And of course, this comes as Ukrainian forces have liberated nearly 1,000 square miles in its latest offensive. How critical is this moment?
Well, it depends on the new commander. It's it's very interesting when they try to shuffle the decks, if you will, on this particular military hierarchy. It seems as if a lot of the people that they've put in these positions have not succeeded. The predecessor was a general who was known for his work in Syria and before that in Chechnya. So they come with reputations. The problem that they're running into is that their talent pool is not as deep as they would like it to be and as we thought it was. So they have not only a lack of talent in their generals, but they also have a lack of follow through. They can't really, even if they have a very capable general, say in the mode of an Eisenhower or in the Russian context, Zhukov, these people have a much more difficult time having their orders carried out than was the case, say, in World War II. And it's a very different environment for the Russians. People are not willing to follow these orders. You're seeing them vote with their feet, in essence, by moving into places like Kazakhstan and Finland, to escape the draft. So these are the kinds of things that people are doing. And the same thing is mirrored within the Russian military context. Even if they are recruited into it, they find it, really possible for them to avoid carrying out a lot of orders. And that is, of course, playing into Ukraine's hands quite easily.
Yeah, abandoning ship, so to speak. All right, Colonel Cedric Leighton, thank you so much. Good to see you.